let's face it, nobody ever said, hey, cool minivan. But here's the good news. You don't need Lambo money to turn heads. Today, I've got 7 rides under 20 grand that'll make strangers nod and say, now that's a cool car. Let's go. Hey, what's happening? How are you doing today? Thank you so much for being here. I am Chris, and this is the world famous Cool Cars with Chris, man. You clicked on the right show at the right time, baby. So today, obviously, we're talking about cool cars. Do you have a cool car? Do you want a cool car? What is a cool car? Like, how would you define what a cool car really is? And I think a cool car is something that not only, obviously, you think it's cool because you enjoy it, it's cool to you, but also probably just as important is that that cool car also turns heads when you drive by in it. When you drive around and someone says, hey, I love your car, cool car. That's such a cool car. Or when you park the car in the parking lot and somebody is also in the parking lot walking by your car and they say, hey, that is a really, really cool car. And that is what we're talking about today. So let's imagine that you happen to have an extra $20,000 to spend on something fun, something cool, a cool car for yourself. Well, you know, and I know that $20,000 isn't going to get you very far, even with a new, regular, boring person's car, an SUV. I don't think you can get anything new today for under $20,000, like anywhere, brand new. It's not going to happen. I think the average price of a new car has got to be in the 30s, maybe even early 40s, $1,000 for a new car of any kind. I mean, I guess you get like a basic, boring, simple, maybe like something Kia, something Hyundai, something really cheap for maybe around 20 grand starting price for like something basic. But that's not cool. What's cool about that? What's cool about a basic, boring, simple little car? I'm talking about something cool that you can drive, that you can show off, that when people see you in that car, they're like, wow, that is a super, super cool car. Something that you're proud of, they're proud of. It makes you feel great. Just like wearing a designer piece of clothing. You buy new clothing, makes you feel great. You look cool. Same thing with these kind of cars. And you do not have to spend a ton of money to actually have a cool car. So today, I'm going through the top 7 cool cars that you can pick up for under $20,000 today in 2025. And when I say these cars are $20,000 or less, that is what you're going to pay for them, depending on where you live, depending on mileage, depending on the year. But being that it's a super cool car, that the person that actually sees you in that car, they will think you spent way, way more money than that $20,000 for that car. They have no idea what you spent on that car because that car looks super, super cool. And to the general public, they will have no idea. But most cars people will probably know. So you can't fool everybody with your $20,000 car. So kicking it off with number 7. Now this car is iconic. This car is legendary. This car has always been cool in my book. I've always wanted one of these cars. And today we're talking about the Chevrolet Corvette C5, specifically from 1997 to 2004. Now, obviously, it's a Corvette. What is not cool about a Corvette? They're super, super cool cars. And when you pull up in a C5 Corvette, people always look. They always want to see the car and who's driving that thing. It's got that super long hood. It's got that low roof line. It's got the big hips and that V8 LS engine. It is a serious sports car. Now, that V8, the 5.7 liter LS1, LS6, is going to crank out somewhere in the ballpark of around 345 to 350 horsepower. Let's just say 350 horsepower, which is a decent amount of power for a car like that. I know you say turbos and new cars can go, more powerful, and the new V8s can go more powerful. Yeah, I get all that. But we're talking about a Chevrolet Corvette with a V8 for under $20,000. Now, typically the price point on these particular cars, well, depending on the mileage and of course, maintenance and repairs and accidents, play a factor in all these kind of cars, salvage title especially. But, you typically can pay somewhere in the ballpark of right around $16,000 to $20,000, depending on a lot of factors. Now, why would someone pick up a C5 Chevrolet Corvette? Well, of course, it's big power. They got that big, awesome V8 for the money. Now, a big V8 for under 20 grand in a Corvette, that is super, super cool. And of course, the car is cool. And everyone who sees that you in that Corvette is gonna be like, that is a super, super cool car. It's got that ultimate cool factor. Now, of course, there's lots of aftermarket support and there's lots of aftermarket stuff you can do with this thing. It is basically a blank canvas. If you want to go nuts with your C5 Corvette, you can go crazy with rims, wheels, exhaust, intake, whatever you want to do. Go crazy. There's lots of parts available for this thing. Lots of cool things. Lots of Corvette clubs you can join. I mean, once you get a Corvette, you are like in the cool guy Corvette club. And you don't have to be like, middle-aged white guy, retired to pick up a Corvette. You can pick up a Corvette right now for 20 grand. Go do it. Go get it. Now, here are some of the problems, some of the cons that you can have by owning this Corvette. Now, of course, like with any older car, older tech is not cool compared to some of the newer cars that have like the Apple CarPlay and all the cool fancier gizmos and gadgets that all the new cars have. You are dealing with an older car. So you have to, understand that some of the tech, some of the odometer stuff, the speedometer, most of that, if not all of that, is all analog stuff. Not this new fancy digital screen stuff like you're used to today. Remember, this is an older car. So those are things you need to worry about if you're considering getting an older car like this Corvette here. And like with any old car, maintenance can be an issue, especially on a V8 in a sports car like the Corvette. So here are some things you really need to consider. Consider this. Avoid getting yourself a high mileage track car. I mean, those things are going to be beat to death. I know they're probably cheap. I know you're probably getting it for a bargain, but they're probably beat up. Inspect the transmission, gearbox, and rear differential. You want to check for leaking seals, the engine mount condition, and the cooling system history. Make sure that service records actually do exist. Do a Carfax or whatever kind of car check you want to do on the vehicle. But just remember when you do these car checking services, just remember that not all services are performed at a place that records these car checking services. So, for example, if somebody actually did all kinds of repairs in their garage by themselves, well, I mean, it may not be recorded. So that's something to be aware of. So if you can find a car like this, check the Carfax, check all the records you possibly can. Hopefully the owner kept actual like service logs of all the, fluid changes, tires, brakes, all that stuff. Make sure it's all been updated. And like with any used car you buy, always take it into a place to do a pre-purchase inspection. Every single used car, you should always do that. That way, it gives you peace of mind that it's been checked through thoroughly before you put real money down. And I think these pre-purchase inspection places really only cost like maybe $200 or $300. Maybe. I know it's $200 or $300. I know it sounds like a lot of money. I get it, but it gives you peace of mind that the car has been inspected thoroughly by an expert at an expert shop with all the tools and all the things. But I can tell you this much: if you pull up to your local Cars and Coffee in your C5 Corvette, you'll definitely get the looks. It says, "I'm serious about driving. I'm also showing up with some swagger with my C5 Corvette." Okay, now moving on to number 6. Now, number 6 kind of combines two companies that kind of share the same platform of car. They got their own names on this car, but they're both basically like shared components and shared parts of a single car, which is super, super cool. I remember when this car came out, I was like, that looks super cool. It doesn't cost very much money. Well, at least back then when it came out, it didn't cost a lot of money. It's gone up in price since then, but I'm talking about the Scion FR-S, Toyota 86, or the Subaru BRZ. Flip or flop, they're all the same. If you ask me, they're identical. Just take one badge off one, put it on the other, the Toyota 86 or the Subaru BRZ. They're pretty much the same thing. And we're talking about the 2017 to 2020 model is the sweet spot. Now, if you're lucky, you can pick one of these things up for under $20,000. But what makes this car super cool is that it's obviously a super sporty, compact, very low. It's got a low roof line. It looks very fast, even when it's just parked. When I first saw the thing, I thought this design looks very similar to some of the Ferraris I've seen. And I'm like, it has kind of this Ferrari design, and especially that red color they came out with when they first announced that car. I was like, man, that Scion FR-S looks amazing. I wanted to get one. Now, what's powering the Scion FR-S is a very small engine. It's only a 2-liter flat 4 engine cranking around 200 to 205 horsepower. Now, 200 horsepower doesn't sound like a lot, but it's rear-wheel drive. It's light. It comes in a stick shift or automatic. So I prefer to get in the stick shift if you could. Now, what is a flat 4 engine? Basically, you have your 4-cylinder straight-up engine where the pistons fire straight up in a row. You got the V-style engine, which is like the V6 and the V8s that fire vertically in a V. It kind of fire sideways in a V. And so the flat 4 takes a 4-cylinder and takes 2 pistons, flatten them out. So you got 2 pistons firing sideways to the right and 2 pistons firing sideways to the left. It's a flat 4 engine, which means when they put the engine in that design into the engine bay, you actually have a lower center of gravity. The car sits very, very low. Everything sits very, very low. Now, the pros of owning a Scion FR-S, BRZ, Toyota 6, what do you want to call it? I don't know what you call this thing. It's like all these different names. But one of the pros about having this car is that obviously it's super lightweight. It actually does have a back seat, so you can put things in the back. Things, maybe some small people. I wouldn't say anybody bigger than an adult size because that back seat is ridiculously small. It's like a joke that it even has a back seat, literally, because when you sit in the car and you actually get to a comfortable spot where you actually can drive the car, reach the pedals and do all the thing with the steering wheel and all that, you actually feel like the seat is all the way back touching the back seat section. So literally anybody back there, I don't know what they're going to do if they sat back there. So it's kind of a joke, the back seat, how ridiculously small it is. But it does have a back seat. So there is that. So which means you can use this as your daily car. So you can take it to the store. You can, possibly take kids around in it. I don't know. Maybe take your friends around it if they're small people in the back. You possibly could do that. And because it only has that small little motor in the front, little engine that could, don't be trying to drag race anybody for pinks with your Scion FR-S. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. It is no drag strip hero. But what it can do is that it can be very fun in the twisty, turny curves, like say the back roads, where things are kind of twisty. Up in the canyons, it does very well with that kind of stuff. You can drift with a thing very easily. You can do donuts with a thing very easily. It doesn't have a ton of power, but you can slide it around a little bit and have some fun within reason here. We're not get crazy here. So let's say you pick up your Scion FR-S Toyota. I don't know what I'm going to call this thing anymore. I keep calling it like 3 different names because it's literally 3 different cars really, but let's just call it the FR-S right now. Okay. So you pick up your FR-S, what are some things to really be concerned about if you were to buy one of these cars? Like what things would you need to know about when you buy an earlier model FR-S? Well, now some of the earlier ones like 2013-14 range, some of these cars had common oil idle complaints. So if you stick to say like the 2017 to 2020, where possible. Now I know we're talking about 20 grand here, and it's possible that you may not find one exactly like you want that is say a 2020 mile for that price point. So, I mean, get what you pay for, really. And because these cars were fairly cheap-ish when they were new, there's a good chance they've been modified. There's a good chance they've been taken to the track, and there's a good chance they've been beat the hell to death. So you really have to inspect the clutch, the differential, and you need to check if any kind of like track abuse. And when I say track abuse, I mean some serious damage to the undercarriage, like maybe damage to the drive shaft, heaven forbid, maybe, damage to the axle suspension, check to make sure the clutch works properly. It goes in gear smoothly. That's the issue when you buy cars that are under 20 grand in this category. Cool car or not, a lot of these cars could or probably have been abused by their previous owners. You just never know. So, like I said before, if you can, do an inspection report on the vehicle. And if you can't get that, in addition to that, take it in for a pre-purchase inspection. I would recommend doing that on any vehicle, especially a car like this one. But if you do decide to pick up the FR-S, let me tell you, this car is an absolute blast to drive. It's super, super fun. So it may not be like the, turn and burn full horsepower and just do burnouts for days and chirping every gear and just, lighten up the drag strip. It may not pull that off, but it's super cool looking. It looks sleek. It looks exotic. It looks like a super cool car. And let me tell you, you're going to get people turning and asking, man, that is a super cool car. I love your car. And that's what it's all about. Okay, moving on to number 5. Now, this car is very, very cool, but it's cool for a different kind of reason. I think it's cool because it shares the same engine as another cool car that I really like. And we're talking about the Infiniti G37 Coupe from 2009 to 2013. Now, and I know that the 370Z has got that legendary VQ37 engine. And this also happens to have that same engine. But unlike the Z, the Infiniti G37 version is kind of like the Z, but more of like a grown-up, dressed-up adult version of the Z. It's got a back seat. It's very plush. It's very refined. It's literally a 2-door coupe luxury car is what it is. So because it's more of a luxury car, you get more of the luxury people that drive it, not the kids, not the tuners. Usually they're owned by adults, grown-ups, grandmas drive these cars. I know, it's kind of weird. A grandma driving a VQ engine, an Infiniti G37. I know it's happened, though, before. So when you see these cars, lots of them are usually fairly clean and usually not modded. They usually don't have any exhaust or intakes or rims or anything like that on there. Not saying you won't find those, but I'm saying a lot of them are pretty clean, usually owned by grandmas. And grandma's not doing that stuff to her car. I can tell you that right now. So you can find them fairly well kept for under $20,000. Now, the cool thing about this car is that I absolutely love the VQ engines. I've had them in multiple cars. And it is a very, very strong power plant. It is a very powerful engine in the mid-range. And this car shares that engine. But it's the same thing as the Z. But instead of the Z, this car is more comfortable, which means you probably can enjoy it on a daily basis. Driving it to the store, driving it around town, taking it on long road trips. It's probably easier to drive around, and it feels like a regular car that has a ton of power with that engine. And because it's probably more of like a sedan, probably more of like a luxury coupe versus, say, a sports car, quote unquote sports car, the insurance companies are probably going to be like a little lenient on that car versus something like a Z. So it's also probably a little cheaper to insure because it has a quote V6, although it's a very powerful V6. It has a V6 versus, say, a V8 or a V10 or V12 or something like that. You get the idea. Most insurance companies see that has a V6. Okay, it's a simple, basic car. Hopefully, insurance is a little cheaper. Now, versus the Z, this car has a back seat, a usable back seat, which is actually bigger than the back seat in the Scion FR-S, which is literally a joke of a back seat. This has a slightly bigger back seat. Listen, it's not like the back seat of a limo. Come on now. It's a sports car, sports coupe back seat. A normal back seat is what it is, which these cars are a little bigger than the Scion, of course. So they are bigger, they are roomier, they're plusher. So you do have a little more room in the back seat if you want to put things and people in the back seat. Now, the downside to the G37 is that I'm talking about a 2009 to 2013 model. Well, the technology back then is different than it is today, obviously. So that you have to really understand that when you do get a car from this age range, the 2009, even earlier than that, that sometimes the technology, the interior, the way the buttons are, the way the radio sits, the way the gauges are, the way the odometer is, it reads out, a lot of that stuff is older technology. It was probably cool back then, but it's older today. So if you can kind of get past that, see past that, and that goes with any used car you buy, any car, you have to realize that you're stepping into a time capsule. It is not a 2025 edition. It is an older car. And if you only care about the tech and you only care about updating to the newest iPhone every single year and the newest computers and the newest tech, then probably buying a car in this range at all would probably not suit you if that's all you care about. But if you wanted to, you always can upgrade the radio. You always can go to an aftermarket Apple CarPlay radio and install it in there. But there's nothing much you can do about the gauges and the odometer and the actual interior itself. It's kind of the way it is. I'm sure there's some modifications you can do. You want to go nuts? Go nuts. But I'm saying that if you buy a used car like this or any of these cars like this, you're basically getting a really cool car for around $20,000. Now, things to really watch out for with this particular car is that, like all these cars, you want to know the actual maintenance history of this car. You want to see all the records, get the report, get the Carfax, get the actual pre-purchase inspection on every car you look at before you buy it. And this is no exception. Now, the motor mounts, the power steering lines, and brake wear, these are things you need to be aware of when you're buying a used G37. But the G37 is pretty cool because I would buy this car as like my daily go to work, have some fun, drive it around. You can hit the throttle, you can punch it, it can throw you back. You can have some fun. That VQ engine sounds amazing. You put a decent exhaust on, it'll sound great. I had an exhaust on my Z, it was fantastic. So it is a really great engine. It sounds great, lots of mid-range power, it throws you back, you can have some fun. And at the same time, you can go to the grocery store, you can take the kids to school, you can go to work, and it's your regular person's car, which is still kind of cool to have. Okay, moving on to the number 4 spot of the cool car that you can pick up right now today for under $20,000 and still be considered cool everywhere you go. And that is another Chevy on the list. That is the Chevrolet Camaro, specifically the 2010 to 2015 model. Now, why is this one cool? Well, have you ever seen the Transformers movies? Yeah, the original Transformers movie in 2007 featured a brand new Camaro Bumblebee. It was the yellow and black brand new Camaro coming out, and it was an absolute head turner. Everybody saw that, thought it was super, super cool. Now, thanks to Transformers, that movie came out and everybody wanted one of those cars. Obviously, that's what happens. You see a cool car in a cool movie, and instantly everybody has to have that car. Well, unfortunately, when that movie came out, that car was not available quite yet. But when it did come out, everybody got it, picked it up. It was definitely a head turner. I think it still is today. It's a super, super cool car. Engine wise in that car, you had a few different choices. You had the V6, which kind of ranged from 300 horsepower to 323 horsepower, depending which year you got. And of course, if you want the big bad boy, you get the SS, which had the V8, the 6.2 liter V8, which basically gave you somewhere around 400 to 426 horsepower. And you get those things in an automatic or a stick shift. I actually drove a stick shift one at a car show once. They had this exhibit where you had a choice to drive one. And they asked me, they said, hey, do you want to drive the automatic or the manual? And I said, well, you guys have a manual one? I said, yeah, we do. Now, is this manual in the V8 or the V6? Because if you have it in the V8, I'm all down. And they said, yeah, we have it in the V8 version with the stick shift. You want to take it around the racetrack? Let's do this. And I said, absolutely freaking yeah, let's do this. So I hop in the wheel of the Corvette. This is probably sometime around this year of that car. And I drove it. It felt very nimble. It felt like a big car though, because it did feel bigger. I mean, the Camaro is kind of a bigger car as it is, but I'm driving that thing. And when I punched it in third, I got at the third gear, and I think I was doing over 80 miles an hour and had that sweet V8 sound, that grumble, that rumble. It sounded fantastic. Now, you can pick one of these things up for under $20,000 for the V6, a ton of them with the V6 for under $20,000. Now, the earlier SS is possible, but it's only possible if they're super high mileage versions. That's something to watch out for. With any mileage car, high mileage car, something to worry about is, maintenance and repairs, obviously. And some of the cool things about owning a Camaro of this era is that, especially if you get the SS, you will be the coolest car on the road with that SS and some sweet, sweet pipes in the back, that V8 rumbling, that sound it makes. Holy crap, that 6.2 liter sounds amazing once you get it up there. And it sounds great. It looks super cool. And like I said, it's going to be very hard to find one for under $20,000 like that doesn't have a ton of miles on it. Not saying it's impossible. It's possible. Everything's possible. Anything's possible. But if you just want to, focus on the looks of the car, the way it looks, if you're kind of person that doesn't care much about the engine, which is kind of like a weird person if you ask me, maybe you only care about the looks of the car. Okay, the car looks cool to you. It looks cool. Then you go with the V6. You can pick those up for under $20,000. There's a bunch of them available anywhere and everywhere. Now, let's go over some of the problems when you pick up this car, because not every car is perfect, obviously. Well, visibility is basically a letterbox, meaning that it doesn't have a lot of visibility in the car. That's one thing I noticed when I drove the car, and I was driving it around, and I'm thinking like, man, I feel very claustrophobic in the thing. I feel like there's a slight window in the back, little windows, and it just feels claustrophobic. I don't feel like I get a good visibility around me like I could something else. That's just something you need to worry about. That's a con, the visibility in this particular car. But let's face it here. You're not buying the car because you want to look around. You buy the car because you want to be seen in the car and be super cool. I get it. I totally get it. Now, obviously, this car does have big tires and big wheels. It comes with like maybe 20-inch wheels, things like that. So big tires are expensive. Brakes are expensive on the thing. And some of the interiors I heard actually do wear out kind of fast. Maybe they're cheap plastic, or maybe they're just cheap interior things to watch out for. And of course, these are with any car you buy, especially a used car. Things do wear out and things do, fall apart. So obviously, when you do a check on the car, a pre-purchase inspection on the car, you want to make sure that the paint hasn't been like mismatched. Maybe there wasn't any kind of like accidents to worry about, any like, big quarter panels that have been probably tampered with, or things of that sort. It's like with any of this kind of stuff. The clutch on the SS, you need to worry about that. That sounds like expensive fix. The cooling and bushing health, you got to worry about that. And that sounds like another big pain in the butt. Now, of course, if you can, now that goes with any of these cars, try to find something that is as close to stock as possible. I know it may be hard. It's not impossible, but it may be hard to find one that has been modded, tuned, swapped, whatever people do. Pep Boys special, go nuts, get crazy with the paint and the graphics and whatever they do, and the wheels and the whatever. It might be hard to find one that hasn't been tampered with. And I get that. I totally get that. I understand. Okay, so that brings us to the number 3. Top 3 coolest cars you can buy right now today for under $20,000, which are going to make you cool and you look cool and you're in a super cool car. So coming in at number 3 is the Dodge Challenger 2015 to 2018. The V6, you can definitely pick up for under 20 grand. But if you're looking for like the RT with the V8s, Sometimes you can find those for less than 20 grand. And that would be super, super cool if you did, because that thing's got a super cool Hemi V8. That's right. But if you're sticking to just the V6, say you pick up a Dodge Challenger because you like the way it looks. And I think it looks super cool because it's very retro design. I remember when those first came out, right around the time I think the Camaro came out with its new design. The Challenger came out with its new design. Very retro, very throwback. It looks like something out of like a 70s movie. In fact, the original Challenger, the design of the original Challenger back in like the 70s and 60s actually looks very similar to this design. But this is a newer car. So you got all the new features, obviously, and things like that. So they made a ton of these, and you can pick it up with their 3.6 liter V6, which gives you somewhere around 300 horsepower, give or take. And it's nothing to write home about. In fact, I've heard some of these V6s with exhaust on them. People put exhaust on these cars, and it sounds like, well, I mean, it kind of sounds like, like it's trying to be a V8, but obviously you hear it, you're like, that's a V6. I can tell it's a V6. But aside from the exhaust, the initial design of the car, the shape of the car, if nobody knows the difference between that car or the V8 or which one, or the Hellcat, nobody knows the difference. If nobody knows the difference, and it's all super clean, and you kept it super clean looking, I mean, you can get a cool looking car. That's definitely going to turn heads. But I wouldn't pop the hood on your V6 and brag about that. That's all I'm saying. But if you want to go for the V8, you can get the 5.7 liter Hemi. It comes in the RT edition. It comes with roughly around 375 horsepower, give or take. Now, they are harder to find for under $20,000. If you do find one for $20,000, an RT with a V8, you are probably most likely going to have very high miles, probably well over 100,000 miles on that car. Now, the cool thing is that they are a fairly big car. Like, I don't know if I would even consider these a sports car. So if you want to compare this car to, say, the Scion FR-S size, yes, they both have back seats. Yes, they're two doors. Yes, they got that in common. But obviously, the Challenger is much bigger, much plusher. It's got definitely a big back seat with lots and lots of room. The front seat's really big. The thing feels almost as wide, like interior wise. It almost feels just as wide. I have to do the measurements, but it's probably pretty close to it. It feels just as wide as my full size Ford F-150 truck does on the interior. Like from door to door, inside my truck probably feels very similar door to door on the inside of the Dodge Challenger. So you got that. You pretty much can haul a bunch of people in there. They're probably all fairly comfortable in there. Haul, different things in there. It's not an SUV, so you can't like open the back, but you can put groceries, all kinds of good stuff in there. Take it to work. You can daily the car. And it still looks fairly cool. I think it still looks cool even today. When you're cruising down the highway in a Dodge Challenger, it still looks like a really cool car. And people see it, they turn their heads every single time. I know I do. When I see a Dodge Challenger running down the road, I check it out. I look at it, and I always say, oh, look, it's just a V6. Never mind. But no, seriously, though, when I do see one, I'm like, that is a super cool car. I get it. But things to worry about is that it's a very heavy car. It's a big car. It's not a nimble sports car. It is not your Scion FR-S. It is not small and nimble. You're not going to be, carving up the canyons in your Dodge Challenger. It's just not that kind of a car. It's a throwback car. It's a classic car. I guess you would consider it more like a muscle car than you would consider it like a canyon carver kind of car. And of course, the things to look out for with any of these Dodge Challengers is, of course, they were used in rental fleets, if you believe that. So people who rented them with any rentals, they are beat to crap to death. People beat on rentals. I'm talking like driving down the street with the e-brake on, kind of beating things up, hitting over curbs, going over like 3-foot drop-off curbs just because you can, things of that sort, things you need to worry about when you buy a car like this. So obviously the suspension and the bushings and the struts can be damaged. They can be destroyed. Like I said before, take this thing over and get a pre-purchase inspection on these vehicles. Check them out. Check the brakes because, like I said, they could be driving around with the e-brake on and just beating them to death, heavy foot, braking to death. They are big cars after all. So brakes are probably a big concern with a car that's really big like this. Any big car, really. And of course, you also want to check out the panel alignment on those doors. They are very long doors on these cars. They're not small. These aren't small cars. They're big cars with big, giant doors, big, long doors. And those big, long doors can get out of alignment if you're slamming them or whatever. Even if they're, in a slight accident, they don't quite line the things up quite right. The panels don't get lined up right. Those are things you need to consider when you buy a used Dodge Challenger. But they are cool. I'll give you that factor. Okay, so we are moving on to the top 2 of coolest cars you can buy for under $20,000 right now in 2025 that will make you cool and look cool and feel cool. And everyone around you is going to say that is a super cool car. Now, both of these cars I would gladly have owned. I've only owned one of them recently. And the other one is also a very, very cool car. I saw one of these yesterday. And it was super, super clean. Some old dude was driving it, and I couldn't believe how clean this car was. And I'm talking about the Ford Mustang GT from 2011 to 2014. Okay, so what makes this Mustang cool, or any Mustang cool? Hello, it's a Mustang. Get with it. Hello, Mustangs are always cool. No matter which year you get, the Mustangs are always cool. Well, maybe not the Mustang 2. I take that back. Yeah, throw that one out of there. But Mustangs are really, really cool cars. And this Ford Mustang GT is no exception. I mean, you look at the thing. It looks great. Sitting still, it's timeless. It's a classic. It's pure pony car magic. And I'm beginning to think that's where the term pony car came from the Mustang. Mustang horse, pony horse, I get it. Pony car magic. It's unbelievable. When you see that thing, it looks great every single time. And like the one I saw the other day, it looked amazing. I think it was probably a 2010 model because it didn't say 5.0 on the side. I think the 2011 is when they got the 5.0 Coyote engine. And this might have been a 2010, but I could not believe how clean it was. It must have been like super detailed, or the guy just did some old guy driving the thing. Super detailed, super clean. It was amazing. And you probably can find a bunch of these for $20,000 or under $20,000. Now, like with any of these, the cheaper you go, the more miles you're going to have on the car. So that's something you need to worry about when you buy any of these kind of cars. The cheaper the price, the higher the miles. It's kind of the way it goes. So the cool thing about this Mustang, obviously, is the sound. I personally have the 3rd gen 5.0 Coyote engine with an exhaust, and it sounds amazing. It sounds fantastic. I love the sound of the thing. It sounds great. It's, when you pair it to one of these Mustangs and you get, say, a catback exhaust with an X pipe on the thing and some straight flow through mufflers, holy crap, it sounds great. It sounds fantastic. These Mustangs, for some reason, with all the GT Mustangs for the most part, they've really figured out a way to put sound, the engine sound, the exhaust sound, as a priority when they build these cars. Ford, you got it down. You know what's up about the exhaust. You know what's going on. And so you make these exhausts sound great. And of course, you can even make them greater. Now, the engine, of course, we're talking about the 5.0 Coyote V8. Now, in these particular years, that engine put out somewhere around 412 and 420 horsepower. It all depends. And of course, you can pick these up in a stick shift, which I highly recommend picking these things up in a stick shift. But if you can't, you can get it in automatic. That's fine too. But there's plenty of these under $20,000 available. But like I said, you got to worry about the mileage on any of these kind of cars. And because it's a Mustang GT with a beautiful 5.0 engine, it's going to look great, turn heads. And who doesn't love a Mustang? Mustangs are iconic. They're super, super cool. I mean, you're going to pull up to your local Cars and Coffee, and people are going to be like, damn, that is a super cool car. And when you pop the hood and it's all cleaned out because you cleaned the engine, right? Of course you did, right? Yeah. And it looks amazing, and it sounds amazing. Yeah, it's a super, super cool car to have. People are going to love it. Now, some things you need to worry about. Now, there are some things, of course, in these kind of cars you need to worry about. And that is, well, it may be hard to insure a Mustang GT. Well, maybe not just hard to insure, maybe more expensive to insure, because they know, and I know, and you know, that A lot of these are wrapped around telephone poles. A lot of these end up in a ditch. And a lot of these people do burnouts and they drift with these things and they try to slide a corner too aggressively and they don't have proper throttle control or whatever they're doing and they end up crashing their car. It happens a lot. And because that happens a lot, when you find one for under $20,000, you need to watch out for damages and all kinds of accident history reporting, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of people who own these cars don't keep them stock. They don't keep them original. Most people modify these cars like with the exhaust and wheels, brakes, you name it, body kit, wings, the list goes on and on. So to find one that has been totally untouched is rare. Not saying it's impossible, but it's rare. So obviously you need to figure out if this car's been in any accidents, obviously. Now, some mechanical things to look for when you're buying a used Mustang is that the differential could have this whine sound to it. Now, if it does happen, well, it sounds like it's a bad thing. And you probably will hear the whining sound when you drive the vehicle. And of course, there's always the cooling and transmission service. Make sure it was serviced and it has not been serviced. You better get on that. And of course, something to also look for is the clutch. If it is a clutch, it is a manual transmission. See if it's been replaced recently. See how much play it has in the transmission. And hopefully it will not go out on you because I've had it go out on me. And it's not fun when a clutch goes out on you when you're driving down the road, when you have like frozen food in the backseat and you got to take it home. It's happened. So obviously, those are things to look for. And steer clear, if possible, of sketchy drag builds unless you know what you're in for. Hey, everybody loves the Mustang GT. And when you pull up in a Mustang GT, everybody's going to be impressed. Everybody's going to want to take a picture. Everyone's going to look at it and check it out. And of course, if you give them a few revs, rev that beautiful V8 Coyote engine and with some sweet pipes on the end, it's going to sound fantastic. Wake your neighbors up. I get it. I love it. Okay, and that brings us to the number one car that will be super cool, looks cool. Even today, this car looks super cool. Not all cars can do that, especially a car that actually debuted back in 2009. Not a 2009 design of a car can still look cool and turn heads today and still make it look and appear that you have a car that costs way more money than it actually does. And I'm talking about the car that I owned personally. That is the Nissan 370Z. Hallelujah. We finally made it to number one. Now, I picked the Z as the number one car because obviously I've owned one. But I can remember firsthand on multiple occasions where I would be driving my Z just down a road, like at a stoplight. I always had the windows down because I like to feel the rush of the air and I like to hear the sound of the exhaust. And I like to be kind of in tune with the road and the car at the same time. That's probably why I drive around with the windows down a lot, if possible. Anyways, I'm driving down with the windows down and these girls are walking on the sidewalk. They're probably high school, maybe a little older. I don't know. And one of them screams out, "Cool car. I love your car. That's a super cool car." And of course, I say thank you. And another time when I was in the neighborhood here, there were some kids that lived down the street and I would drive the car to work. And as I would drive the car to work, every day I drove by that house with the kids playing out front, every single time I drove by my car, they would scream out, "Love your car, such a cool car. I love your car." And on another occasion, I was at the grocery store putting stuff away in the car and another girl was with her mom. She had to have been like maybe elementary age, somewhere around there. And she's with her mom and she tells her mom, "I want a car like that when I grow up. I want a fancy, fast, cool car like that when I grow up." And I was like, "Yeah, that's my car, it's cool, And it's a kind of a car that still looks amazing, even though it's older and you can pick these things up for $20,000 or less, depending on a lot of factors, of course. Now, just like the G37, it's powered by that legendary VQ37. It's the V6, the 3.7 liter V6, cranking out 332 horsepower. Now, depending on some trims and depending on a lot of things, you can get this in either the 6-speed manual with the sync rev, which was what I had in my car, or you can get the 7-speed automatic. There's lots of automatics available. Finding one in a stick shift is fairly rare. And when I found mine, I was like, yes, it hit all the boxes. It had nice wheels and rims on the thing. It had the stick shift with a sync rev. And that's all I needed. That's all I wanted. So the model I had was a Sport Edition. And I paid about, I think it was $19,000 is what I paid for my Z. So yeah, under $20,000 for my Z. I think it had somewhere around 50,000 miles on the car. But it did have a lot of owners on the car before I bought it. When I checked the Carfax, it had like, I think 3 previous owners before I got that car. And that's just a little side note here with sports cars, especially if you get into like exotic sports cars like Ferraris and Lamborghinis. You'll see a car, it might be only be 5 years old, that has like 5 owners on the car already. Like, wow, that's crazy. Because people buy these cars as their fun car, not as their main car. It's a 2-seat sports car, so it does not have a lot of room in the car. And so you have the car, and it's basically your fun weekend car or whatever kind of car. And they usually have low mileage on the thing. I had 50,000 on my car, and it was a 2011. So, I mean, but when they do get over 100,000 miles, they're fairly reliable. This engine, the VQ engine, is said to go 250,000 miles without any issues. Supposedly, that's what Nissan says. So, I mean, sometimes you can find ones that are completely clean and completely stock, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes, and most of the time, I think about it, they've been modified in some way or another. In fact, the guy who bought my car was telling me he went through a bunch of other Zs before he bought my Z. And he said that he appreciated how clean mine was in compared to the ones he was looking at. And I asked him, I said, what happened to the ones you were looking at? Oh gosh, they were completely modified with new hoods, wings, and they've been either salvage title or they're wrecked or they're automatics or they got all these issues and all those different things. And they've been totally like crazy clown cars, modified, all kinds of stuff. And he wanted something that was pretty close to stock as possible. And mine kind of fit that. I did a few upgrades to the thing, like the exhaust and things like that. But it was pretty clean and pretty, kept up, basically. Because I think some of the other ones are probably beat up and drifted and hit curbs and trees and telephone poles and other cars and things like that. So that's an issue with any of these kind of used cars, especially a used sports car like this. So, some of the cool things, obviously, is that this car, not only does it look cool, but when you drive the car, it's very raw and you feel very connected to the car. It's a real analog driving experience. And I always said that the 370Z was a pure sports car through and through. That's what it is. It's nothing else. It's not a sedan trying to be a sports car. It's nothing else. It is pure, raw sports car. You look at the numbers. It is a 2-seat, mid-front engine, high powerful, high revving sports car, rear wheel drive. That is a platform for a well-balanced, fun driving, fast sports car that looks really, really cool. It's low to the ground. It's got a wide stance. It can drift for days. It can do a lot of cool things. It's fun in the canyons. It's great. It's a great car. And it's actually surprisingly more powerful than you think it is. When you get behind the wheel in the 370Z, Nissan, with that VQ engine, they know how to throw it on some power. It's got some punch. It's got some power. Now, I know it's not the fastest car out there. I know Mustangs will probably smoke it. I get all that. But this car, it's a 2-seat sports car. It feels and looks, when you're in the thing, you know that you are in something special. You are in an actual sports car. And when I sat in the thing, there are many nights I'd come home and sit in the garage and sit in the car and just kind of like sit and soak it all in. And when I was in there, just sitting in the car, just sitting there, looking around the interior, grabbing the wheel, kind of feeling like this car felt to me like I made it. And even though the car wasn't very much money, it felt very special to me. And I really enjoyed the car. Now, here are some things you need to look for if you're going to buy a used 370Z. Now, obviously, my clutch went out on mine. And the master cylinder, which is the hydraulic master cylinder for the clutch, does go out, and it went out on mine. And it was a horrible, horrible situation to be in when the clutch goes out on this car. That's one issue it had on mine. So that's something to be worried about if you're to buy a stick shift version of the Z. And another thing to look for is the differential in the subframe and the bushings and all of that underwear of the car, because they are low cars. I was scraping like everything I went over, like every little like miniature bump. And I don't even know, like even like a miniature speed bump, it would scrape because the car was so low to the ground. It was very, very low to the ground. And so those are things to worry about, of course. And of course, modifications and how the previous owner actually used the car. And you hope that when you buy a car like this, with any used car, you kind of hope that the previous owner like babied the car and literally like barely drove it and literally took care of all the service records on time when they needed to be done. You hope for that stuff. You hope for all that stuff. That's not always the case. So like I said, you got to go have it checked out by a mechanic. In fact, that's what the kid that bought my car did. I met him at the dealership and he paid for the full inspection on the car and it passed. It didn't have any like check engine lights. All the brakes were new. Obviously the tires were brand new. Obviously everything came out with flying colors. It basically passed. And the very next day he's like, here's the check. I want the car. So that's what it took to buy the car. Great. I get that. And you should do the same thing if you're looking to buy a car just like that. Now the 370Z, there's a lot of them out there and hopefully you can find one for under $20,000. I know you can if you go over 100,000 miles on the odometer. You should be able to find one, and hopefully it's not salvage title. Because I went looking at these things, and let me tell you, I was finding salvage title after salvage title after salvage title. Of course, they were like $5,000 or $8,000 for a 370Z. I'm like, well, that's a really good deal for a car. Turns out they've been salvage title. Yeah, that's why they're super cheap. So with any of these cars, try to avoid salvage title, because it'll be very hard to get registered and insured. So that being said, I hope you enjoyed this cool car list of cool cars that you can pick up right now for under $20,000. And it'll make you look cool and you'll feel cool. And it'll be fantastic. It'll be a great car and a great ride. And if you do pick up a car, well, let me know. Maybe you own one of these cars. Let me know. You can hit me up at coolcarswithchris.com. Everything is right over there. Links to videos, links to social media, and ways to get a hold of me are all right there at coolcarswithchris.com. Thank you once again, and I will see you on the very, very next episode.